for British schools in the Middle East. My name is Susie Sheehan, and I'm Deputy Head at Modern English School in Cairo. I have previously been the head of English in several school contexts, including a large comprehensive school in Wales in the UK, and also here at my current school, MES Cairo. Today's webinar is entitled Developing Drama in the Secondary English Curriculum. We are delighted to welcome our speakers today, Natalie Cole, Fiona, Lindsay, and I'll introduce them and tell you a little bit more about them in a moment. Before we start, I would like to make sure that everyone present is prepared for the webinar. Please ensure that your mic is muted, and please do not unmute during the presentations, as this may cause sound interference. Please also turn off your cameras, and please be aware that this webinar is being recorded throughout the session. You are invited to use the chat bar on the right-hand side of your screen to post any questions that you may have. Our speakers will answer as many of your questions as possible at the end of this webinar. After the webinar, the recording will be shared and any documents referenced will be saved in the shared courses area of the network discussion forums. Please do engage in the BSME network discussion forums, and remember that you can participate in as many topics and subject areas as you wish. Colleagues can revisit today's webinar on the network page for next week, and the video will be linked to the webinar flyer. Excellent. I think we're all prepared now. Natalie Cole is our first speaker today. Natalie Cole is an English and drama teacher at the British School in the Netherlands. Previously, Natalie was head of Year 11 at the British School of Bahrain, and she has also worked as Key Stage 4 English coordinator in an inner London school. You can find Natalie on various social media sites. She has a YouTube channel called Educated Minds, which is aimed at revision and well-being for GCSE and IGCSE students. And Natalie has created a much-used teacher well-being planner called the Happy Teacher Planner, aimed at promoting well-being for teachers, whatever the context, wherever their context may be. I will share Natalie's website and Twitter handles in the chat. Natalie is an outstanding practitioner who enables her students, and her work has had a highly positive impact on student achievement in English drama. Today, Natalie will demonstrate for BSME teachers how she is using drama as an effective tool within the English curriculum to develop student skills in analysing and critical thinking. So over to you, Natalie. I shall stop presenting now. Natalie, could you unmute your mic, please? Natalie, can you hear me?
Yep, so I've just done it. Sorry.
Oh, okay, great. Sorry, I want to do what
I'll do that. I'll start that again. Okay.
Perfect, thank
you. Okay, there we go. Right then, so I'll be talking about how to develop drama in the secondary English curriculum. So, what one of these apply to you? So, true or false? I rarely use drama in my English lesson. So this is just a bit of time to kind of reflect actually on how you use drama in English. So I rarely use drama in my English lessons. I don't have time to incorporate drama in English. Drama is fun, but it has little substance in English. Drama is good for getting students up on their feet. I'm not confident to include drama in my English lessons. Drama in English is mostly about performing scripts, hot seating, and teacher and role. I just want you to have a minute just to think about which one is kind of true or false for you. We often as teachers don't really, especially as English teachers, don't really feel like it's our job to possibly use drama in English, but both of them kind of go hand in hand. And it is important to think that we can use drama in our lessons. A lot of teachers, I did a Twitter poll on this. And as you can see, from almost 250 teachers who voted, many of them either do it sometimes or never. There's only 8.1% of teachers who actually incorporate drama all the time. So from looking at some of the kind of Twitter comments, some said, one said, I'm the worst at it, departments are much better, but I have built a 6-week unit looking at speaking, performance and speeches, but not so keen on the drama element, to be honest. Or in an ideal world, we should be doing this, but curriculum is so squeezed, it's hard to find space for it, so it's difficult. Another teacher said that I think it has massive potential, but like so many other things, we don't feel like we can prioritize it. I feel like I spend most of my time at the moment explaining why Key Stage 3 needs a massive overhaul at national level. So as you can see, there is quite a bit of, for teachers, where it's either idea of competence or it's just not the time to do it. And so this is something that we need to think about, and actually, is there time, but we haven't really made the time to do so. Some teachers, however, who did say they do use drama, said the following things. Some teachers said that they frequently show different adaptations of drama and discuss different ways of staging this. Others said that they use role play sections in books they read. They also teach a play as a mini scheme of work and pick pupils perform this, and they create their own scripts. Especially for Key Stage 5 or Key Stage 4, they're trying to get their heads around meter in Shakespeare, or poetry they've read, so they use drama that way. A drama specialist who taught GCSE drama said they use a lot of drama to teach the course, and found that students misread something, they'll act it out, as often they see how it can change the meaning. So for comprehensive tasks, they'll get them to role play. So physicality in that sense help them. And one said they use it all the time. They use drama games and representations of ideas through things like conscious corridors, freeze frames, and imagining sets and costumes and all sorts. So as you can see, that there is ways that you can get drama in. It's not saying that you should be trying to use it every lesson, but it's definitely another way for students to try and engage with the learning, especially when it comes to maybe students who struggle with English. Using drama can actually be a way for them to help them in English. So here are just some of the ways that you can develop drama in the English curriculum. One step, students can develop their critical analysis skills through doing drama in the English curriculum. It also gives them the opportunity to take a practical approach to analysing the meaning of a text in a different way. It also can help them be more invested in the learning process because they're part of it, rather than just having a teacher at the front of the class kind of dictating, telling them what to say. This allows them actually to be part of the process and allow them to actually, let's say, get on their feet and to be less superficial with the text. Then we've got, they can become more active learners rather than being more passive learners in this sense. They can also develop a deeper exploration of writers' intentions and the impact that this has on the audience. It can also allow them to give more opportunities for all learners to develop their connections between the spoken language and the written language. I definitely find when it comes to drama and adding this into English, the ones that you usually find it quite difficult thrive when it comes to this. And actually, after performing a drama task and then having to write, their answers are a lot more detailed because it becomes less superficial for them because they've taken part in the learning process. So I just want to give a few different activities that I do with trying to include drama in English. So the first one is something called 2 sides to every story. So what I usually do is in small groups, I give students extracts from the text, and then I make them assign roles based on who's in the extract. So for example, you could do for like a Key Stage 4 text, which is Christmas Carol. So you could have, for example, Fred Scrooge was in the beginning asking his uncle to come to dinner. So you could have in a group someone to be Fred, someone to be Scrooge, and someone to be Bob Cratchit. So students then read the extract, and then based on who their character is, they tell the story from that person's perspective. So how would the story differ being from Scrooge's perspective, Fred's and Bob's? So we would know, based on what kind of things we know about possibly their characters, how that situation, how that particular moment would differ. You could also get students to recreate the scene from each character's perspective by getting them on their feet to actually create scenes of this moment, but from that character's point of view. Then after the drama, get the students answer the questions in role. So how did your character feel in that moment? What are your feelings towards the other characters and why? And do you think you could have handled the situation differently? So in some way, it's kind of a bit of a hot seating in this sense, to actually make them to see kind of exploring alternative viewpoints. You know, we are told the story in a third person perspective, but it is actually good to understand the deeper meaning of a character by getting them to be in role as this character and asking them questions in role. This task could also help to develop those questioning and thinking skills for them. As I say, it's making them think in a different, making them step outside of what they know, stepping outside of themselves in order to think and as another character. Then another task they could do is still images. So in groups, students choose key quotations from a poem, and then they create still images based on this. So in this task, I took the poem from Not My Business, and the students had to create key quotations or create still images of key quotations from the text. So what we then did is I didn't tell other students what quotations they had, but they had to kind of guess based on the still image what quotation that they were depicting in the still image. And then what we did is to start annotating and putting quotations around the characters in the image to see whether or not it was clear what was taking place. We then brought in drama aspects and thought about how they use things like, you know, facial expressions and body language and levels and distant space in order to try and convey what the poet was trying to show us in the actual poem itself. So what we also did is evaluate. If the image wasn't clear, we would say, okay, well, we would place the writer in the image and make one of the students become the writer and say, well, how would you want to depict this image? Is this clear as the writer what is taking place? And then the writer can then step into the still image and do what they and sculpt the character to change it in the way that they intended in that sense. And then explain their choices as to why they've maybe moved the character or why they've sculpted their body in a particular way. So again, placing the students in the role as kind of the writer allows them as well to actually think about a writer's intentions more as well, as they have to become the writer themselves. Another thing that we do is placing the reader in the image. And what we do is get them to kind of stand next to a character for different reasons. So as a reader, who do we feel the most empathy for? As a reader, who do we feel the most dislike for? And so we get the reader to kind of place themselves next to the characters where they feel in relation to these questions. And so that actually helps as well. When you ask them, okay, why did you stand next to this person? They have to then explain their choices as to why we're made to feel empathy for this particular character and so on. This really helps in regards to them physically or visually seeing imagery here. We will talk about imagery all the time in English and how we need to be able to, you know, how the techniques being used to build imagery for the reader. And for a task like this, they're actually seeing the imagery because they are creating it themselves. And so it's really good. So what I did with this task is they wrote an analysis paragraph about the poem before the drama, and they did another one afterwards, and you could really see the improvements in regards to their analysis after doing this task, because they can actually now really kind of talk about writer's intentions and the reader in a bit more detail because they were on their feet and doing this themselves. Another task is process drama. So this one I enjoy the most, I think. This is where both students and the teachers are in role as a character. So with this, I usually do like a crime investigation or a courtroom type of drama. So what happens is, the best ones I find is, say, is a courtroom and crime. And this one, as you can see in pictures, was a Macbeth lesson where we, they just, Macbeth just killed King Duncan. However, we have to pretend that we don't know who killed him. So the students had to use evidence from the text, as well as testimonies that I had written from the different people that were there, to try and use evidence to work out who they think has killed Duncan. Obviously we know it's Macbeth, but they have to pretend that they don't know. And so I then act as the kind of chief of police, and we do some hot seating as well, where we will investigate and we will interrogate certain characters within the scene. And then the other students in the class will also act as detectives as well and ask questions if they want. This is good for, say, a teacher in role. So as a chief of police, I can then, question, challenge, and manage the discussion that is taking place. So, usually if it was a student that was leading this, it can become quite loud and quite disorganized, but having a teacher in role allows you to kind of manage this. This works really well. First of all, the kids love it. They love playing a role themselves. They took it really seriously because they had a whole actual pack of evidence. So I, had like pictures of bloody fingerprints and the dagger and Lady Macbeth's ring. And so, when you're giving them these kind of tools here and making them be in role, it really works for them in this sense of trying to really engage and stepping into the drama in this sense. What I also do with this is to add make sure that the English element in there is, as they are presenting their cases as detectives, or if they're in the courtroom and they're lawyers and they're trying to defend their character, I will give them points based on how well they use evidence, how well they use persuasive techniques in their work, discourse markers. And so actually, I say that these are the things that help you win the case. The more evidence and the techniques and things you can use to persuade me as the judge or as the chief of police to help you win. And so again, they have to really think about the language that they're using as well, in order to try and develop the drama and develop their analysis as well. Another task that I do is called Think Like a Director. This is where I get students to become the directors of a National Theatre play. And I say that the writer from the novel we've been reading has been can commission their play or commission their novel as a play, and you are now the directors. And so students will have time in groups to start to actually create a play version of the novel. And so they may have a script, they have to produce a script from one scene, costume and set design. And so throughout the process, students have to use evidence from the text to support their design and technical choices. And then what they do at the end is they pitch all of these ideas to me, to me, the writer, and the National Theatre team, who are the rest of the class, explaining their directorial choices and showing that they've used clear evidence of the writer's intention and what the writer would want and how the writer would want their play to look on stage. And so again, putting them in the role as the writers and playwrights and directors, again, allows them to step outside of themselves and have less superficial responses about the writer's intentions, and actually think for themselves about, okay, well, how would I do this? How would I use lighting and sound and costume and so on in order to make it engaging for my audience? And so again, that allows them hopefully to make better comments about a writer's intention and the effects that they're trying to have when they in the novel. And the last one is the idea of script analysis. So this is a script from an Inspector Calls, and in this I blank out words from the script. So this comes in Act 1, but we've learned a little bit about the characters already by this point. So I blank out some of the text, and then the students have to predict what is taking place in the text. Based on what they already know about the characters, like Mr. Berlin, for example, they have to think, well, how would Mr. Berlin react to the inspector in the lines that we're given? So I make them as well concentrate on the stage directions more, concentrating on, you know, rather impatiently and cutting through massively and thoughtfully, and, you know, what then impression are we being given of the characters here in this moment. And it also helps us to reveal more about the kind of characters' behaviours in this sense. And we then start looking at, you know, the idea of the stage directions more, which sometimes I find GCSE students miss. They don't really talk about form and things as much when it comes to, like, you know, the stage directions, the lighting, and in that sense, and the sounds with the ringing of the doorbell or the phone and things like that. And so actually doing it in this way and looking at the script in this way allows them to just focus on these elements that sometimes gets missed. So here are just some of the approaches to teaching drama. As you can see, many of the skills are linked with English. And so here the students do have the opportunity to be analysing writers' techniques. They have opportunities to looking at writers' intentions and to analyse poetic and literary techniques in this sense. So there is so many ways you can actually cross over drama and English without having to feel that, you know, you don't have time or you're having to, you know, completely change your lesson. It's just about thinking about a different way that students can take in information that you have. Rather than you stand at the front of the class and just having a discussion, you can actually just incorporate some of these techniques into the drama itself. So how can we ensure drama is developed in the English curriculum? First thing I would say is to make sure that you and your department have a shared vision about how you want to incorporate drama in English. I think that's the main thing. If not everyone is on board, then it can, it prove problematic, because then some people want to do it, some people don't, some people put more effort in, others won't. And so it's important that there's a shared vision in regards to this. It could be a case of making it become department policy, and it becomes part of department policy where you do try to incorporate drama within your English curriculum, and maybe having clear objectives that you set as a department about what it is that you can do in order to make sure that this is incorporated. Then having things like, termly reviews to check how this is being done. Also, I think a good thing is when you are incorporating drama, to have observations and, you know, asking some of your colleagues to come and observe you doing it, sharing this good practice in your lessons. And obviously having things like inset training as well. When you have inset days, department time, maybe this is a case where you are sharing those good practice of the ways that you have incorporated drama into your curriculum. So hopefully these are some ideas that will work for you, and hope, you know, maybe you can incorporate within drama. I know it's not something that can happen overnight, but especially I think it's something that you can do more with Key Stage 3, and then hopefully that's some way you can develop it further for Key Stage 4 and 5. But yeah, I think trying to get drama in is definitely just a more engaging way to try and get students to understand some of the themes and characters and plot of a text.
Natalie, thank you for sharing your expertise with us and for inspiring us today. Natalie has inspired us all to consider how and when to best incorporate drama into our English teaching, and has given us confidence to use drama in ways that have a really positive impact on student achievement in English, including excellent differentiated strategies for engaging students who struggle perhaps to succeed in English, enabling students to be more active participants in their own learning. Natalie has enabled us to focus on some really motivational strategies using a variety of English literature genre, and strategies that allow students to improve their analysis skills by empathizing with reader or director, playwright and writer, to better understand literary techniques and writer's craft. Natalie has shown us how students can learn through these dramatic skills that can be applied across all types of text and with all ages of students. So thank you very much, Natalie. We will come back to you with some questions at the end of this webinar.
No problem.
Thank you. I would now like to introduce our second speaker, Fiona Lindsay, who is creative producer at Digital Theatre Plus. Supporting Fiona is her colleague Steph Cook, who is driving the video presentation for us today. Fiona was instrumental in the creation and development of digital theatre, and As creative producer, Fiona initiates a wide range of original filmed and written content. She has worked in the entertainment business for over 25 years and is driven by a passion to democratise the arts and give a voice to the practice and process of creative practitioners. Alongside her work at Digital Theatre Plus, Fiona creates and presents arts programmes for BBC Radio and was a founding member of the RSC Education Department. Today, Fiona will deliver PD entitled In Defence of Character, a forensic examination of 4 of Shakespeare's protagonists. Often, the connection that a student makes with a character from a play can determine the outcome of what and how much they learn and are able to make a response about, both in class and in a written exam paper. In Defence of Character is a practical PD session that will share useful exercises that enable students to enter the world of a play and get under the skin of its key protagonists and interrogate their behaviour. This session will bring to life some of the creative processes that were employed in the making of Digital Theatre Plus's Protagonist series, and demonstrate how to apply these within a teaching framework. And Fiona, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Suzanne, for that lovely introduction. And thank you, Natalie. That was so interesting and inspiring and confirming. I loved absolutely everything you talked about, and it was just an absolute, confirmation for me of the power of drama in the English classroom and the power of drama, full stop. As educators, whether that's formally in the classroom or informally like me, I'm sure we all share the driving ambition to ensure that teachers and students have the absolute best and have access to information and processes that are going to enable them and help them. And for my money, the best way in terms of helping a student understand any subject is by immersing them in a practical experience of that subject. And so drama is one way of enabling and helping a young person to understand a range of topics, and also understand themselves in the world, understand others in the world, and understand the world itself. At Digital Theatre Plus, our primary purpose is to ensure that teachers and students have what they need when it comes to really having great access to theatre arts and English provision. We've been doing it for 10 years, and from a standing start, we have come quite a long way and learnt huge amounts along the way. When we began, there was nothing like our resource out there, and we were getting a lot of negative feedback from theatre industry and also teachers about actually filming theatre or filming theatre resources. And the knockback was, oh, it's got to all be practical. It's all got to be in person, live. However, 10 years down the line, that has completely changed. And now we are finding that the theatre industry is embracing the digital experience, and teachers and students are actually really hungry for digital resources in the classroom. Our challenge, my challenge, is to try to make those digital resources relatable, to try and make them appropriate, to try and all the time make them sort of a proper representation of what it is we're looking at. So in this case, Protagonists, but we've renamed it In Defence of Character. What I hope it is a good representation of how a director and an actor, or a director and a group of actors, approach text, but more specifically approach character. What we've tried to do in this project is we've tried to create something so that when our audience is viewing it, the teacher can identify with the director, and the students watching it can identify with the performers. And we hope in that way, not making it explicit actually, but in that way, it's very relatable. In Defence of Character I hope does much of what Natalie was explaining. It puts people in role. it is an examination of character. It gets under the skin of a particular moment of text, but through the lens of the character. What I did is I wanted to ensure that it was attractive to watch, interesting to listen to. So I adopted, borrowed, stole an idea from Netflix, which is Criminal UK. So a bit like Natalie was talking about, create a crime room investigation. And in that way, really be able to poke, probe, interrogate the situation, and be quite provocative about that. So what we've done, this is a project that hasn't actually been published yet, and we're going to show you stuff that's not quite finished, yet to be published. So if it looks a bit cranky, please bear with us. But what we did, because it's a pilot project, we decided to start with Shakespeare. So we've taken 4 of Shakespeare's protagonists. We've taken Hamlet from Hamlet, Portia from The Merchant of Venice, Prospero from The Tempest, and I can't remember the 4th one. That's so strange. Anyway, we've taken those 3, Hamlet, Portia, Prospero, oh yes, Viola from Twelfth Night, how could I forget? Viola from Twelfth Night, and we've put them through a particular process. What we do in the first instance is we contextualize their situation, and then we read a section of text, and then we interrogate them in role, and then we see in performance that moment of text that we were examining. Each of the protagonists, each of the characters that we are looking at is charged with something, and in that way have to defend themselves. So for example, Hamlet is charged with the murder of Polonius and has to, in interrogation, defend himself against that charge. In order for the students to get a fuller understanding of that character in that moment, what we also do is we bring in some essential satellite characters. So in the Hamlet suite, for example, in the interrogation section, we are also introducing our students to Gertrude, to Claudius, and to Ophelia. And by allowing their points of view to come through, we hope that the student is going to get a fuller understanding of character. From interrogation, we then go to see the soliloquy in performance. And in performance, what we hope the students and teachers, but essentially the students are going to absorb, is the real psychology behind and behaviour within that character, so that when they come to have to write about that character in English, they've got a point of view. They've got under the skin of that character. And if they've identified and related to that character well, hopefully they've walked in their shoes and they can really defend them, speak about them in a very, very confident and clear way. Steph, let's just show a beginning. I just want to introduce you to the sort of overall sort of theme of the series, and then we're going to jump into the context and analysis section to begin with. So Steph, if you could just press video 1. And it might lag. I hope it doesn't. It does for me, but it doesn't for Steph.
Hello, I'm Miranda Cromwell and I'm a theatre director. This is In Defence of Character, and in this episode we're going to be looking at Hamlet from the protagonist's perspective, Hamlet. And I've got Eben Figueiredo here with me, who is going to be playing Hamlet, and we're going to be exploring one of his most famous soliloquies, so no pressure. And we're just going to be going through rehearsal, just working out what he's saying and having a play with the text, and then we're going to be doing some interrogations of the character later and seeing some of the other characters that feature in Hamlet. So yeah, so not intimidating.
And then what, we'll stop there. Then what Miranda goes on to do is she goes on to set the scene with Eben supporting her. She contextualizes it. And what will happen, this isn't a finished piece, what will happen as that's happening, we've got some textual overlay that will have key plot facts. Then what they do after contextualizing it and really creating the environment for this moment is Eben goes on to read the soliloquy line by line. And as he's reading the soliloquy, what will happen is those key words in the soliloquy will come up or float onto the screen. So hopefully what the student is getting is a full immersion in that particular moment. What we'd like to jump into, though, is we go into the final section of context and analysis, and it's the text in practice. And what Miranda does is she takes all the learning from the previous two sections and she puts it on its feet and gets Eben to do certain things. And in this particular episode, and it's different in all the different character episodes, in this particular episode, she sets him a task, and it's to do with rhythm. So they're interrogating rhythm. Shakespeare, for drama and English teachers, can be terrifying when it comes to understanding and interpretation, and mainly that's all to do with the language and the rhythm of the language and how you play with that or not. So here is an exercise that Miranda sets Eben, and it's very straightforward. It can be done in a classroom, sitting on a chair, behind a desk. It can be done on its feet. It's very, very simple indeed, but it's quite revealing. Steph.
Nice here, because again, when we think about Shakespeare, we think it has to be in this rhythm. We see the verse, see the way it's laid on the page, and there's 10 syllables. We go, okay, this is how we deliver it. And it's quite close to our natural speech pattern as well. But there can be a fear, I think, around playing with that. But actually, let's free it up and let's just start to think about where the thoughts are.
Okay.
So if we go, this is my first thought, to be or not to be, that is the question. And then I'm going to give it a punctuation. So a clap or a click or tap your foot, whatever you want. But at the end of your thought, kind of give the thought a full stop. So it's not so much about full stops as we know them, but thought full stop.
Yeah.
So I'm having a new thought. So I'm going to go along with that new thought. When I think that that thought is ended, I'm going to give it a punctuation.
Okay.
Just see how it feels.
Yeah. All right. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or take arms against the sea of troubles and by opposing end them. To die, to sleep no more. And by a sleep to say we end the heartache and 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to, 'tis a consummation devoutly to be wished.
Okay, good. I'm going to pause you there because I felt some other little shifts going on in there.
I agree.
Which is interesting, isn't it?
I think I missed one.
So to be.
So we'll just leave it there. And I think there's something empowering about seeing somebody slightly older than you. So in this case, Eben, for a student, not understanding it, not necessarily always getting it right, but working through a process to try to get it as close to right as possible. So in this rehearsal room environment, what the students are seeing is they are seeing an actor working through something, not coming to it with full understanding, but having to, like a student, work through it step by step by step. And in this case, just using a simple beat like this, every time it's a thought change, to release the speech into a different tone and feel. So Eben goes through that, and hopefully, and we're just showing you snippets, but as he goes through it, you will see, the student will see the step changes in discovery, and hopefully that will be empowering to watch, and also something that they feel they can do themselves as well. So from this moment, we then go into interrogating the character. So Eben, furnished with information about that character, takes on the role of the character. And what we've done is, this is very much sort of Crime UK sort of setting. When we filmed it, I did the spoken questions, but we've decided, because of time, because I sort of lingered on the questions a bit, we're overlaying the screen with the questions instead. Steph, let's show the Hamlet interrogation.
When exploring a script, I always think it's really important to look at it through the perspective of the characters and really try and get under the skin of what's going on. So we're going to interrogate the protagonist of the play, but also other characters within the play to find out what they think and feel about each other and really try and dig deeper into what motivates behaviour. I'm going to do it right here.
It was an accident. The blade wasn't meant for him. It was meant for my traitor uncle. He robbed me of my throne. I plead guilty. You know the facts. It's there. It's in front of you. Why are you asking me these questions? You know the facts, man. It's not a belief thing. I know it. I know it. So initially, I saw the ghost of my father. It was a couple of weeks back. I saw him. He came to me in a vision, and he told me exactly what happened. He told me that his brother poisoned him, poured it into his ear, and he died. And he told me to avenge his death, so that's what I'm trying to do here. You understand? The second thing is, and this is why I know it's true, because I needed to pattern something up to make sure I knew it was right. All right? So I set up a play. I set up a play that reenacted all of the things that my father had told me, just to see exactly what Claudius' reaction was. He went straight to the chapel where I followed him, and he confessed to the murder. In fact, let me read you the statement that he said. "Forgive me my foul murder. That cannot be, since I am still possessed of those effects for which I did the murder. My crown, mine own ambition, and my queen." It's there in front of me. Because it was mastering. He'd end up the better out of it. He don't deserve that. He deserves to rot in hell, just like he did my father. What's talking gonna do to a guy like that, really and truly? He's already made his mind up. I've already made my mind up. So there's no talking involved, you understand? I don't know whose side she's really on, to be honest. I don't know, man. I just hope that she realizes what's going on, and I really hope she understands that the love we have is way realer than the love or whatever's going on between them two. I love her, innit? In recent times, I can't vouch for her, I'm not gonna lie. She's not been acting the woman that I've known. And I really try to hold on to the love that I have for her. But I'm not gonna lie, I can't stand for what she's done. And if it was between her, him, you know, what's coming to them's coming to them, really and truly. Oh, God. The blade wasn't meant for him, innit? I expect her to just cut me off, to be honest. Like anyone would. There's a little part of me, a little part of me that hopes somewhere that she believes in the love that we have, that she'll forgive me, because I love her. I really do love her.
That one there. Thanks, Steph. So just to pick up on something Miranda said in her introduction to this section, what we're looking at is what motivates behaviour. And by enabling the actor to just speak freely from the character point of view there, hopefully the student will get a sense of that character on the page coming to life in action, and they will start to begin to sort of connect with them in a human way. I think if a student has to write about a character, whether that character be in a play text or in a novel, they have to make connections, or at least begin to understand motivation and point of view, and hopefully through doing work in this way, whether that be in drama or in English, essentially, students will be able to deepen their understanding of character in situation. So finally, we'd like to show you To Be or Not to Be in performance. And so what we've done is we've taken Eben's portrayal, and from Eben's point of view, actually it's in the text, it's not just from his point of view, this is a character, Hamlet is a character in complete turmoil. So Eben's take on this is like, well, if I was in turmoil, you know, and I really love music and I really love spoken word, essentially a sonnet is a piece of spoken word, so I'm going to set it to music. Let's set it to music. So he does it set to music. So that picks up on all the stuff that the students will have witnessed in the context section in terms of rhythm and the opportunities that the rhythm provides. And it feels very contemporary, I hope, and real, and most importantly, connectable too. Steph, let's show the soliloquy.
To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is mole in the mind and suffer, with slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or take arms against the sea of trouble, whistle by opposing end, to die to sleep no more, and by a sleep to say we end a heartache and 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation, devoutly to be wished. To die to sleep with chance to dream, I dare to wrong. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come, when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us. There's the respect that makes calamity of so long life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of disprised love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes, when he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin? Who would fardels bear, to grunt and sweat under a weary life, but that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveller returns, puzzles the will and makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others that we know not of. Thus conscience does make cowards of us all, and thus the native hue of resolution is sickly o'er with a pale cast of thought, and enterprises of great picture moment will disregard their currents, turn away, and lose the name of action. To be or not to be, that is the question. That is the question. To be or not to be, that is the question. That is the question. To be or not to be, that is the question.
And that's the end of the soliloquy. So yeah, to be or not to be, to use English in the drama, or drama in the English classroom, I suppose that is the question, and I hope the answer is yes, let's do it. There you see or saw language that is ancient, you know, and increasingly ancient, but a young performer performing it in a really sort of visceral fashion and a you know, very honest fashion. and hopefully a way that actually would enable a young person to then go and write a brilliant essay about the character of Hamlet and and his situation, and in particular this an analysis of to be or not to be. That's our presentation. Thank you so much for listening and watching, and I hope it didn't last too much.
Thank you very much, Fiona. Steph, have you stopped presenting? Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so moved by the last scene that I'm still sort of recovering from that. Thank you so much for inspiring us today, Fiona. You have given us some critical ideas and strategies for placing protagonists, for placing the students in role as protagonists, and by contextualizing their situation, enabling students to get into role and to really understand the character in depth. You've given us a wide range of exciting strategies that can dispel the mystery and fear that sometimes surrounds the teaching and learning of Shakespeare and the language of his plays. I particularly enjoyed the strategy that demystifies the rhythms of language and reminds us how close it is, actually, Shakespearean language to natural speech. And the strategies you share, I think, are empowering for both student and teacher, showing how it is natural and even important for all learners to falter as they grow and develop their understanding. And I was also particularly struck by the Hamlet interrogation, showing how getting under the skin of the characters and how they feel and think can have such a strong impact on the learner. We were reminded of the importance of adapting our teaching strategies to suit today's learners and to embrace the learning pace of each individual student. And Fiona, amongst other elements, you prompted us to think about how a contemporary and creative approach to analysing Shakespearean text enables us as teachers to adapt our teaching in ways that can have a hugely positive impact on pupil achievement. As I say, I was so moved by the rap, I struggled to get back into the rhythm of the webinar. I found the rap approach to the soliloquy very moving, in fact, more moving than many traditional renditions I've seen and heard in recent years, surprisingly enough, even at my age. So thank you very much indeed for sharing your expertise with us today and for giving us a fantastic glimpse into these Digital Theatre Plus videos that I believe will soon be released in full on your website. I think we do have some questions in the chat bar there from Charles. So before we host a Q&A, I would like to remind everybody to please remember to share this webinar at your schools. The recorded version will be available early next week on the Secondary English Network page. As PSME members, you are also eligible to watch the webinars in any of the networks, including, for example, Teaching and Learning, Leadership Matters, or Safeguarding. If you have any questions about the webinar later on, please do ask them in the Q&A discussion forum on the Secondary English Network page. In fact, please engage with us on the discussion forums. This is our tool to use and support each other. If you have any network-specific resources that you would like to share, please load them in the resource forum.